Thanks, Sarah. All right. Well, as Sarah said, I'm really excited to be here today. I'm from Turning Point. And so I wanted to just start just a few minutes for those of you who might not be super familiar with Turning Point, just so you know some of our services and programs and be in touch with us. So that's what I'm going to start with today, telling you a little bit about Turning Point. And then I want to talk about self-care, but we're going to crowdsource that topic a little bit because self-care can be one of those words that, you know, is fun to talk about and also not so fun to talk about. So we're going to kind of process the word a little bit together. And then we're going to talk about key practices for self-care, especially emotional self-care. All right, so Turning Point. We offer free programming for anyone looking for a chronic physical condition or chronic illness and those who support them. And so we have a physical location at 89th State Line, but we also do the chunk of our programming on Zoom. And so we offer programs like, let me jump ahead. And I did bring copies of our latest program calendar for you. So we have emotional support classes. Those are the kinds of classes that I teach that help folks adjust to living with their chronic conditions and offer social support for that. We have practical issues classes around Medicaid, Medicare, advanced directives, things like that. And then we have meditation programs for relaxation. We have nutrition, whole eating, diet programs for particular diets, like our anti-inflammatory diet is really popular for us. And then we have tons of support groups as well. We have an Asian support group, we have multiple support groups. And so I want to share some of the resources with you all specifically, but to also let your friends and family members know. Because you can self-refer, meaning you don't need doctors know or know to take part in Turning Point programs. You just have to reach out to us. So let me get that out here. This is our QR code on the screen. You'll also find that program calendar that I today. Where you can call us. And so all you need to do is register for programs and then all of the costs. Really, we have to collect demographic information, your name, address, emergency contact info, that kind of stuff. And then you're good to go. You can sign up for programs online, as well as some of our So as I said, the location at the 89th State Line Road, and then we do a lot of programs online. So yesterday, I taught a Zoom program on the skill of active listening. Anybody know what active listening means? Yeah, what does it mean?
You're actively listening, and you're able to take in what a person is saying, and be able to be the summarize.
Beautiful job. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it's about really being present with someone, being patient with them, allowing them to share their story, and practice good listening skills. So we have a ton of different classes that I would encourage you to check out. There can be some additional kind of wraparound support for you all. And your loved ones. So tell your friends and family about Turning Point as well. I'll be happy to stick around a little bit after my talk and answer questions about Turning Point too. Okay, so today's topic is self-care. I'm going to read this definition from Turning Point, but here a little bit, I haven't actually thought about that as a group, about what self-care means to us. How we define it in Turning Point's 10 Classes of Resilience program is any behaviors that help us balance the effects of physical or emotional stress. So we can include a whole host of different things, right? Self-care can be body movement that you were just doing before you kind of talk today. It can be talking with a friend, getting some emotional support, it can be periods of rest and recovery. It can be healthy eating practices. It can be all sorts of things. But I want to start with loving gratitude because self-care is a topic that, especially when you live with a chronic physical condition that impacts your daily functioning, self-care can be a topic where it can be a little bit activating for folks. And I say that because sometimes in our American culture, even going to the doctor or something, they might tell you, oh, no, you just eat better, or just move your body more, or just rest more. You know, self-care can kind of be used as this magical cure-all, can't it? Or it can feel like this big, long laundry list of things that you have to do to be healthy. And so we want to kind of encourage today building our own definitions of care and coming up with ways of interacting with self-care that are meaningful for us. Because every single human on the planet is different, right? And our self-care needs differ from person to person. But I first just want to be grateful for you all in this community that you've cultivated, because a big part of self-care is community and being in a network of support and encouragement, right? So self-care, how we kind of present the between point is, it doesn't mean you have to go alone, right? Sometimes when you think of self-care, it's those things that you do alone to, you know, care for yourself. When in reality, self-care is also engaging with others, asking for help when you need help, being in communities like this one where you can offer and give support. And so I like this quote, I don't have to offer it, but it says, self-care is not a solo act. It's a chorus of voices reminding us that we're not alone. Okay, so a big part of self-care is engaging with people with a shared value system or a shared goal and offering and giving support. But I want to kind of open it up to feedback from the group of whether you have experienced stroke or whether you've experienced supporting someone who's had a stroke. How has your perspective or how you view self-care changed? Or how do you define self-care? Would anybody like to share on that reflection? Yeah, 1 second. Repetitive sometimes, but just remind them I don't need that. So that's what I want for example. So daily encouragements over big things and small things, right? Is that Karen? Karen, thanks, Karen. Anybody? Yeah, we're just on the state line on the Kansas side, but we do programs all over the metro, both Missouri and Kansas. Anybody else want to share what self-care has meant to you or how self-care has changed in terms of how you look at self-care? And I also heard you say not taking things for granted. It's true. What's your name? Christina, that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Anything else want to share?
Yeah, putting the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Oh, what can you tell more about? What do you mean by that?
So, you know, they say that on the airplane before you help someone else put the oxygen mask on yourself, because if you're down, if you're tired, if you're in pain, if you're, you know, cup is empty, you can't take care of someone else. So you have to make sure the door is full before you do someone else.
Yeah, yeah. There means as a caregiver, I have to keep showing up, helping, loving others. Yeah. Okay, good feedback, good feedback. We'll continue to kind of move on, okay? Really, I want us to have a takeaway from this morning that a big part of self-care is permission giving. And I'll explain that here in a second. But self-care requires compassion, kind of like Ms. just explained, where my needs matter too. Self to be engaging in self-care is not selfish. So being really compassionate with my needs too, as well as permission giving. And let me explain that part. Self-care can also mean being kind to ourselves instead of being hard on ourselves. So giving ourselves permission to reframe self-talk if we notice that our self-talk is starting to impact our well-being, right? Another part of self-care is being honest with ourselves about our limits. And so sometimes self-care is giving ourselves permission to say, you know what, that's enough for today. Or, you know what, I need to take a couple things off to do this today, a little bit more about it, right? So that's the permission part. Also, permission to set realistic goals and expectations for ourselves. That's really big. And then permission to ask for more help as needed. Even if we're asking for help when we need it, even if we're the one providing care, right? And then this is what Christina was saying a little bit, is celebrating small joys or celebrating small things in life, not taking things for granted. Another aspect of self-care, this one is really permission related. So permission to respond to our exhaustion, our emotions, or our stress with some check-ins, which we're going to talk about here in a second, emotionally checking in with ourselves before we just try to power through the next thing that we've got to do that day. Okay? Any other thoughts? Kind of going back to this question of what self-care means to us. After looking at some more ideas, does that get you thinking or have any more reflections on what self-care means to you? No? Okay. Well, I do want you to do this as a silent question before we get into some of the practices for self-care. Let's think about what are some parts of our day or aspects of our day where we need a good chunk of self-care, or we need some self-care. Does anybody have thoughts on that? It could be around, you know, when our bodies start to feel tired and we notice the self-talk kind of changing a little bit. Could be if you have a harder time in the morning versus the evening or vice versa. Yeah, do you want the microphone? Yeah, that's
Hey, you're in. I just get tired. And I said, running out of gas, I'm running gas. I can just eat this and turn it higher and it's minutes. Yeah, energizing.
So I heard a couple things there. Afternoons, you notice a big crash in their energy. But then the permission part for you, give yourself permission to just, let's take a little breath. Okay? Yeah, thank you. Any other thoughts on what self-care might be needed most? Yeah,
Well, I think whether you're recovering from medical issues or mistakes, realizing you can't do it like you used to do, and feel start.
yeah. So that kind of goes back to that self-confidence, self-care that is, man, my life is different today than it did previously, and I need to give myself the great compassion to meet myself where I am today. That kind of what you're saying? Yeah. Good reflections, good reflections. So we'll keep thinking on that because now we're going to transition to talking about some specific practices. So first of all, some aspect of self-care is do not always have words that can fix it or to make it better. So whether you're providing some emotional support for yourself or whether you're providing some emotional support for someone else, sometimes there just aren't the perfect words to say, is there? And so an aspect of self-talk and self-care that we want to remind ourselves is that just being present, just being with someone, even if you're completely silent, that can be a really beautiful thing to give someone. You don't always have to have the right words to say. We call that bearing witness or holding space for someone. And even if that someone is you, just taking a deep breath and slowing down and being present with the emotions that you're feeling. You don't have to have a word to fix it, make it go away, that kind of thing, just being present. And then also having emotions. So that's what we're going to talk about for the remainder of the time is self-care in terms of managing our emotions. Because as we know, stroke survivor, supporting the stroke survivor, there's a lot of emotions that can come up, right? And so self-care, part of it is managing emotions. It's also really easy to, like I said earlier, just kind of go about our day, go to the next thing, and not really check in with how day-to-day is impacting us. So that stress, emotions start to add up throughout the day. And so what we're going to talk about are self-care moments, meaning little fractions of your day, little moments of your day, where you can practice self-care by having some emotional tools to plug in that particular moment, okay? And then it's really related to giving ourselves care and compassion. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is just simply naming how you're feeling. It sounds really super simple. And even if you're just thinking the thought, I notice I feel a little frustrated right now. Or I notice I'm feeling really angry right now. That simple act of naming how you're feeling is really helpful for the nervous system, and it helps us kind of calm down and regulate emotions. So we don't even have to say it out loud. We can just say, I notice I'm feeling frustrated. Okay? And what that does is that helps us, like I said, instead of stress and emotions just piling up throughout the day, if we struggle with certain tasks or we just had a difficult doctor's visit or something like that, before we go about our day, take a second to acknowledge, hey, what am I doing in this experience, in this moment? Can I actually think about what emotion is coming up? Okay. And to add on this skill, okay, so notice what you're feeling. Sometimes it helps to connect that feeling to a value of yours, okay? Because a lot of times emotions are trying to give you some piece of information, and a lot of times that piece of information is, gosh, I really care about this, okay? So let's talk about a couple examples of that. Let's say, okay, this happened to me the other day. So I see a rheumatologist for my health issues, and I only get to see her about 2 or 3 times a year because she's so booked up. It's really hard to get into her, even though I've been seeing her for 6 years now. So I always try to over-prepare in these doctor's visits, right? I have my list of questions. I'm thinking, okay, I don't have much time to talk to her, make sure I put in all my talking points and all my questions. So I prepare ahead of time before I go to the rheumatologist. Well, the morning I'm supposed to get to my rheumatology appointment, guess what happens? I forget my questions at home in my notebook. And so, as I'm racing to get to the doctor's appointment, I'm kind of freaking out a little bit because I'm thinking, oh no, I have questions, I'm going to forget to ask about this, and then I won't get the medication support or the help that I need. And so I'm kind of cycling, spiraling, right? And so what might help me in that moment, what I try to do in that moment, although it always do it perfectly, that's okay. Is I try to name what I'm doing in my head. Feeling pretty upset by this, by hearing my list of questions that I offer. Why is this such a big deal? Why am I feeling so upset? Well, it's this value of, what do you think one of the values would be there? If I connected that emotion and feeling upset to a value.
You were trying to be cautious of the wrong time.
Yeah, oh, that's a great one. Yeah, I was trying to be cognizant of time. Not only of the doctor's time, but of my limited time with the doctor.
Yeah.
Right? I really value time in those medical appointments. Good. What else would find that? Feeling upset connected to you as a doctor.
That you missed the question you wanted to ask.
Yeah. It's like, well, goodness, it's kind of that self-advocacy, right? That we all have to do when we go to our medical appointments. We don't kind of advocate for ourselves. We always don't get what we need out of that appointment, right? Okay, and then the last part of this emotional processing tool is trying to take some small action that helps me align with that value or is something that I can control. Right? So I choose to act in a certain way. So this could be as simple as I choose to reframe my self-talk. So that's what I have to do that morning. Because I have really been beating myself up until I kind of recognized, oh, I'm beating myself up because I notice I'm upset. I'm upset because now I'm wanting to value my time with my doctor that I wanted to see. But what can I do with it? Well, the only thing I can do is try to change my own talk and be nice to myself. And also try to remember as much as possible what questions are. I forget some, you know, so what I do is I change my self-confidence and I don't think if I forget some of the questions, I can call the nurse. I can use my chart. I don't know if you use my chart to follow up with specialists or your doctors. But that's what I can control, right? Is my self-talk to say, it's okay, Haley. You know, everybody makes mistakes. You forgot your list of questions. It's okay. So does that make sense as a processing tool? You name the emotion that you're feeling. You connect that feeling to a value of something that means something to you. Because usually your emotions trying to tell you information about something you care about. And then you connect it to something that you can actually do, whether that's asking for help, whether that's changing your self-talk, whether that's some small little action. Yeah.
Well, what makes sense to me to do as soon as I get to that doctor's office, hopefully, I've been in the waiting room for a while and just jot down the questions then.
Yeah.
So I'm remembering what it was. Oh yeah. Then sometimes once you start jotting it down.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if we have trouble noting things, we could maybe, you know, tell our nurse or have our loved one tell our nurse or have our loved one write the questions down. But I love your tenacity there because that is something we can control too. Is just, okay, what can I capture? I might not be able to remember everything, but let me just see if I can capture the most important questions. Yeah, good call. Any other thoughts on this process? As a self-care tool. It might not first come to mind when you think of self-care though, right? This is a check-in for our emotions, which are really an important part of our self-care. It really does impact our well-being of how we're relating to our emotions. Okay, let me give you another option. If this one didn't quite fit for you, guess what? We have more options. It's great. So this one is called our self-compassion break. This is another way to practice self-care, especially if you're having kind of a rough day. We all have days that are a little extra rough than others, right? So this is what we call our 3-part self-compassion break. So like this other strategy, it's got 3 steps. And guess what? The first step is the same one. You just notice how you're feeling without judgment. It sounds super simple, but just noticing how you're feeling about journaling, about trying to talk yourself out of it. You know, what we're really good at is when you have an emotion, you gotta talk yourself out of it. Oh, so-and-so is bad. I don't deserve to feel this way because I should be better than I, you know, hoping better than, you know, we're just kind of hard on ourselves sometimes. And talk ourselves out of emotions. So that's why it's so helpful to just pause, name how you're feeling without judgment, say, wow, I know I'm really struggling today. Okay, that's the first step. The second step is to remind yourself it's okay to have an emotion and it's actually quite normal, right? This step I like to say is no wonder I feel this way step. So you're kind of normalizing having an emotion. Let's actually use a real world example though, and we can kind of walk it through these steps. So does anyone have a real life example you could share, or it's kind of a challenge for you recently, or a stressor? Yeah.
I feel like you're burdened people.
Okay. Yeah.
And everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It makes you feel guilty.
yeah. Are you okay to use that in this?
Yeah, that's fine.
It's okay?
Yeah.
And what's your name?
Nancy.
Nancy? Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Nancy. We're gonna help Nancy plug that example into this model of the 3 parts of compassion break. Okay, thanks, Nancy, for sharing. So Nancy noticed recently this feeling of I know something good. Okay. Being able to say that and name it is the first step, and to do it without judgment. Like, you know what, this is what I'm feeling right now. Okay? The second step is to normalize that emotion. It's like, of course, you feel this way, right? Anyone would feel this way who's navigating life post-stroke. It's normal to feel that emotion. Anything you would add to that, Nancy, that's helps you kind of normalize it, and it's like, of course you feel that way. Anyone would feel that way if they were in your shoes. Anything else come to mind? Yeah. So it would be things like, you know, I'm not alone in this. We're all trying to navigate hard stuff. Or I'm not the only one who feels like burden sometimes, right? So the second step is to normalize the emotion and also remind yourself of your shared emotion. You know what? I don't know when people struggles with this feeling that I'm burdened, right? I don't know what you do this. That's a common emotion to feel. Anyone living in stroke. Okay, and then the last part is a really critical part of self-care part. Okay, it's again working with that self-talk to tell yourself something kind and supportive. And sometimes when people struggle with this step, it can be easier for the brain to latch into, okay, what would I tell someone else, like a good friend or someone else in this community who was telling me they feel like a burden? How would I encourage someone else? And then I kind of turn the lens inward and I use that same language with myself. Okay, so let's come up with a few messages that you can share with Nancy on this step. So how can we encourage Nancy's heart on this step?
What?
Telling Nancy something kind and supportive. Yeah, people love Nancy and they want to help and they're here for you.
And very important.
Yeah.
Yes. You gotta remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People love you just as you are. They value you just as you are, and it's you're an important part of this group, this community. What else can you say? Yeah, she already has. She's been contributing to this self-care talk in a beautiful way, helping all of us with this insight. Right? So thank you, Nancy, for helping us process some of our emotions. Anything else? Okay, so if we review these 3 steps, the first step was name how you're feeling in your head, and notice I'm feeling like a burden today, as the example that Nancy gave. Remind yourself it's normal to have an emotion. It's okay to have an emotion. It doesn't make you a bad person. No wonder I feel this way. This is a common emotion to feel if you're navigating stroke recovery. And then the last part is tell yourself something really compassionate and kind, which you all came up with some beautiful messages. Nancy, we love you, we value you just as you are. You're part of this community. You're offering some really good wisdom today to the group that matters a lot. Okay, does that make sense, those 3 steps?
What happens if she tells her family members how she feels? So maybe they'll say, don't feel like that. We're here for you. We love you, blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely.
Tell their family how she feels.
Yeah. If you're comfortable to do that, absolutely.
I do that, and I know they love me. I'm very fortunate, but I also know it is a burden. They're all busy people. They have jobs and family, and they have responsibilities. And to take care of me is a really big one. It's a hard thing.
But when I got that feeling,
Yeah.
I think about that, I think, well, I've devoted so much of my life to helping others. Now it's their turn to help me. That's what I tell myself to try it.
I was telling my caregiver driving here, I used to work with people through Rag, Grange, Grace, all these years, and then this happened to me. What are the odds? Yeah.
So reminding yourself that it's okay to, like, this stage of your life, to be the recipient of a lot of care, including, as you were saying, telling your family, hey, this is an extra kind of day for me, where I'm struggling with this thought. It would help you to talk about it. Is that kind of what you're saying? Yeah, thank you. What's your name? Serena. Serena, thank you for that feedback. It's really good.
I don't think she should keep it bottled up inside.
Absolutely not.
She said to tell her family. It's time.
Yeah, and even just sharing today that feeling with the group, Nancy, is a gift to us, because I'm sure you're not the only one in the room who has navigated that feeling. And sharing it with others is a really important part of navigating that particular emotion. Thank you, Serena. Good thoughts and good support. Very crowdsource this support for Nancy, but I hope that makes sense for the 3 parts. Okay, we'll move on then. Anybody have a go-to phrase if you like to kind of psych yourself up or support yourself? So this is one that comes really easily to you. It could be as simple as a deep breath and saying, okay, one thing at a time, or it's okay to ask for help, or you know what, I can do hard things. Okay, so using some sort of supportive self-talk, as well as breathing, any kind of breath work that you've worked on, to your capacity, taking a deep breath and then telling yourself like a supportive phrase. If you can have one that's a go-to, that's really easy to call to mind when you're kind of you need a self-care moment. Anybody have a phrase that you can think of that you like to tell yourself, and it's just you need a quick like self-care moment, reassure yourself that you can do hard things. I got this. I'm doing the best I can.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Breathe.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. So that's just a very simple one. Deep breath. It's okay. I like that, Karen, because you could use that in a lot of different situations. Put it in your absolutely. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. That's good for the nervous system too. It helps us kind of calm down. So that's what we mean by having the phrase. That it could even be one word. I have a good friend who's also a counselor, and she every year on New Year's will pick one word for the year. It's kind of like her creed, her go-to word. And so it could be as simple as having a word. Faith.
Perseverance.
Perseverance.
Breathe.
Breathe.
Faith.
Faith. Kindness. Yeah.
I had a coworker.
And you want to make it personal to you, right? Don't take somebody else's word, but what's a word that would really mean something to you? And so that can be nice because in those moments when you feel really overwhelmed and we're struggling to use any kind of self-care technique, if we just have a word that kind of grounds us, maybe take a deep breath or reassure ourselves with that word. Any other ideas come to mind? Powerful word for you?
Role model. For grandchildren's role model.
Role model. Yeah.
They shot it right from the other day, which I get really overwhelmed when I get to my house and do the best every day when I come to work. So it really helps me because the only two people you can control in life are your attitude, your effort.
Only thing you can control in life, the only two things you can control in life. The balance, right? Okay, good insight, Val. I love when people share their best practices because you'll come to realize that, hey, I'm doing a little more self-care than you realized with this stuff. Okay, here's some more ideas. So these are all phrases, not words. We've got deep breath, I can do this. I like this one a lot. May I meet myself right where May I meet myself right where I'm in this moment. Okay, because day to day, our capacity looks different, doesn't it? All I can do is my best, and that's enough. I'm doing what I can in this moment. May I be kind? May I be patient? It's okay to ask for help. I'm not alone. Okay, let's do some other ideas for supportive self-talk. Okay, I have one breathing exercise for you. It's something to remember. Again, just when you have a moment where you're like, gosh, I'm really struggling today, or I'm feeling really exhausted today, and you need some compassion, especially if you're, either receiving care from a supporter or loved yourself or providing care. This breathing practice is called compassionate equanimity. Equanimity means holding yourself in the same regard that you hold everyone else. Kind of going back to what Lucy was saying about put your oxygen mask on first. So compassionate equanimity means that, you know what, I'm going to take ground compassion for myself, as well as this person I'm supporting or this other person supporting. So it's super easy to remember if you just breathe in for me, out for this other person. Compassion in for me, compassion out for the other person. Okay, and you can do that like in a group setting, you can do it on a one-on-one setting, but especially if you're feeling, I don't know, if you just feel like you need a moment, sometimes it can be nice to breathe in compassion for yourself and breathe out. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? So I know I've done this before, either when I'm really frustrated, or maybe even when somebody's telling me that they're struggling and telling me something kind of personal or emotional, and I'm like, oh, I don't kind of respond, or this is kind of an emotional moment. I'll just kind of pause. I'll take a breath in for me. I just feel the other person. Okay, and I like it because we then just remember the whole both of us in that same space together. I couldn't. Okay. I think this might be, yeah. So this is my last practice that I'll share with you, and then we'll kind of recap and leave space for any other thoughts or questions that you have. But I want to share one more thing with you as a self-care practice. So this is, again, what we call a self-care moment. So today I've really just been sharing more like emotional tools with you of something that you can plug in the moment that you notice having an emotion or having, you know, this thought that, hey, I'm really struggling today, or this is a difficult day. You would want to have things that you can do in that moment to care for yourself. So this is another one of holding two different thoughts at once. Okay. So the first part of it is you have a thought like, I feel like I'm not doing enough. Or I feel like I should be doing more. Right? We all have those thoughts a million times a day or a million times a week. We don't really necessarily need to talk ourselves out of it or beat ourselves up when we have a thought. We just notice that we had the thought. And then we ask ourselves, well, what else is true? What is something else that can live alongside this thought that I have been doing enough today? Okay, so it's finding another thing that you can tell yourself that grounds you in feeling of support or gratitude or strength. It's kind of reminding yourself what else is true. Okay, yes, this is a really hard thing to hold, but let me find something else to hold that makes me feel safe, strong, or supported. So this actually comes from a specific therapy practice called dialectic behavioral therapy. You might have heard of it called DBT. It's called holding the dialectic, or holding two different things at the same time. So for example, there's a lot going on in the world that's really sad and really hard, right? So we can acknowledge a really heavy truth like that. Like there's a lot going on in the world that's really hard, even in my own life. Right? I struggle. And what's another truth that can live alongside them? Okay, so let's come up with some examples for that. So the world can be hard, it can be heavy. And what's another truth to live alongside that truth that reminds us of our strength, our support? Anybody have any ideas? Yes, I'm doing what I have the capacity to do in the moment. That is a beautiful thought to hold at the same time. Ooh, but look how far I've come. Yeah, I love this. So this day where you're struggling, I'm sorry, in the back, in the blue shirt, Chris shared earlier. Sometimes we have days where we struggle kind of comparing ourselves to our previous selves or capacity. Didn't you bring that up earlier, Chris? Yeah. So we could honor that that's a struggle. You can say, yeah, it is hard to remove what things for sure, right? And holding another truth alongside that without belittling or dismissing that, hey, this is hard. Because we still want to honor that it's hard, because it is. We just want to say, and what else is true? And then that's where I would have Sarah's. But look how far I've come. So that's what we mean by having two truths at the same time. Honoring how we really feel, even if that's kind of a heavy thought, and finding another thought to live alongside of it that grounds us in a feeling of safety or support or strength.
It's called experts.
Yeah, holding two truths or holding two thoughts in our once. Yeah. Or it's easier to remember if you remember it by what else is true? Yes, this thing, and what else is true? Okay. Any other questions about this particular practice? Okay, if there aren't, I'm going to kind of recap for us some of our key takeaways. And then we'll open it up and for questions or answers to questions. Okay, so self-care and takeaways. Self-care is about valuing your own health and well-being and believing that your needs matter too. No matter who you are, no matter your current capacity in this moment, your needs matter. Okay? You deserve and you need time to rest, recover, and restore your energy. Self-care is about giving yourself permission to do whatever you need to do most in that moment. Okay, so remember, a key takeaway for today, that self-care doesn't have to be about really long activities. You know, I did my exercise again today, or I ate a really healthy meal. While those things can be really helpful, I want us to also start thinking about self-care moments. Little fractions of time in our day where we really show up for ourselves emotionally. Okay? It can also just be, hey, I need to go to bed earlier than I usually do, or I need to take something off to do this because I'm feeling really exhausted today. That can also be self-care, right? That permission giving that we were talking about is a really big part of self-care, is giving ourselves permission to meet ourselves where we are in this moment. And then the last one, this is huge. This goes back to the idea that we don't have to do self-care alone. And what Serena was saying earlier about a big part of self-care is talking about it openly and honestly with our loved ones, with our family, with our friends, with our communities of support. Let's normalize some of the challenges that we have day to day. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out there. Let's get some encouragement. Because we don't have to live with our own thoughts or emotions. It helps to share them in the community and talk about that. And that in and of itself is self-care, right? So self-care doesn't have to happen alone. It can happen in the community with other people. And that, how we do that is by talking and sharing. Anything you would add to that, Serena, since you had a really good, this was kind of coming from you today. Anything you would add to that? Thanks. All right, so I did want to note that I have a couple extra handouts for you today that have all the practices that we talked about in the PowerPoint. There's copies of 2 handouts up here that you can grab. And then also a copy of our latest Turning Point program calendar. And on the front of the calendar has that QR code, that kind of fuzzy little black and white square at the bottom corner. If you cover your portfolio or open that, it'll take you to your registration page. You can get signed up for things, or there are phone numbers on there as well. So I think that's it. I just want to open it back up to the group. Any key takeaways that you have from today that you want to kind of share with others, or last reflections on this topic of self-care? Yeah.
I know that a lot of us did this, I don't say of course they would always talk. People would make burgers and say, simmer down. So they put them out to get it in the car or frustrated, but we don't watch the things we say, simmer down and simmer down. You just makes you laugh, it just calms you. So that's what you might go to simmer down and simmer down. You say, simmer down. You know, yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what was missing from our talk today. So thank you. It's humor can be self-care moment, right? Just learning to laugh at absurdity sometimes. I mean, some of the things that we have to navigate every day, sometimes it helps to just laugh or crack a joke or to have an inside joke like we do with my husband. Sometimes that releases some of the heaviness of it. Yeah, so thank you. That's such great advice. It's a self-care moment to just be, let's have a good laugh, right? Yeah. Any other ideas or best practices? That's so beautiful.
There are a lot of inspiring movies that you can watch. Yeah, you look up and research about inspiring movies. Inspiring true stories. I love them. They're amazing.
Yeah. Do you have a specific one that you can remember and recommend?
Oh gosh, a bunch so many. I forgot my head. What's the best one?
Yeah, they're just. That's great advice, like find either an, inspirational movie, right?
The research is, it has categories.
Oh, yeah, you can search by topic, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
PBS has a lot too.
Yeah, that's great. Watch something fun or inspiration. Yeah, so she was saying, there's so many good, fun, or inspiring stories out there that you can watch either in a movie or in a documentary. And it's maybe you can either go to, PBS.org, or be on Netflix subscription, or even YouTube. Sometimes you can find pretty cool videos on YouTube, by just searching by category or topic.
Yeah.
Right here. That could be good as self-care, actually. Yeah.
There's a website called Notes from the Universe. And so you can just sign it, it's free to sign up, just with your name and your email address. They'll give you daily, like, things to help ground you. Just a quote, and I tried it with, my patients at my last job, and every, like, day, the quote seems to get more and more, like, personal. And I don't know how it does that, and you don't get any personal information. So it's just, there are things to like ground you or remind you that, take care of yourself and you're doing a good job and things like that. But it's not like cliche.
It's called Notes from the Universe.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, especially the one that gives you that particular day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the turning point flyers are here every day. And I tell you guys the new ones are there, so. We got it.
Okay, I think I'm at my time with y'all.
New ones are here.
Yeah, then we just got new ones too, so I didn't have those in hand, but they just came out with the July August there too. Okay, so you should have copies coming of that soon to pick up your stuff. All right, well, I just want to again thank you for having me come to this amazing group, and also thank you for the way that you offered your wisdom today on self-care, because you all really have a lot of lived experience with this topic, self-care. And so I just love that you were able to share that with the group and really appreciate sharing your perspectives on self-care. I learned a lot today, so thank you for that. Yeah.
That's right. He said thank you.
Oh, yeah, thanks, Brian.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in July. And enjoy the snacks. These are chock full of stuff.
Yeah, we'll put out the snacks.